Welcome back, chat. It's Wednesday, April 3rd. This is producer Henry saying thank you for joining us for Wisecrack Live. Michael will be with us in just a moment. Go ahead, get cozy. Hope you're taking time from the job to have a few snacks, get yourself rehydrated, relax, get your brain ready. We're about to have us some Wisecrack Live. Be right back. I'll let Michael explain the Canadian re-education drama when he comes on show today. It's quite elaborate, and I mean, it is his personal testament. I can't speak for it. Artificial Ignorance is such a thrash metal revival band name. I kind of love it.
Okay. It's April 3rd. April 3rd, 2024. You know you're old when you live in a year that a past version of you would have felt like was the distant future. Like, I am so old that there's a point in my life where I was a conscious human being where if you said, "What's 2024 gonna be like?" I would say, "Oh, flying cars driven by sex robots that look like Carmen Electra." Um, and, even that Carmen Electra reference ages me. And what's up, Roz ATL? Love for Mexico City. Mexico City sounds great. I want to go to Mexico City sometime. I'm glad someone in Mexico City is hanging out. We're starting Wisecrack Live now, in case you're wondering what's happening. why I'm here. If you don't know who I am, then thanks to you. Why are you here? I don't know, but I hope you stay. My name is Michael Burns, recently released from a Canadian re-education camp. My throat is still coated with pure maple syrup, which is giving me more of a buttery smooth affect. I am here, as always, with tanky extraordinaire producer Henry. Every week I have to try to convince him that he does not need to use large state military violence to carry out his political and ideological aims, but we'll get into that a little bit later.
Hello.
See, that's the voice of a Stalin-esque psychopath, if I've ever heard one. Um, hey, I'm glad to be with y'all today. Hopefully, let's start with this. Let's start with this. Apologies for anyone who watched Monday's stream or watched it after the fact and was in it for a few minutes and was feeling empathy and care and then felt it all played out when you realized it was April Fools. I mean, I will say that, you know, people will say sometimes that like at the heart of good humor and satire is the truth. There was truth content to everything that was said in our April Fool's bit. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go check out Monday's stream. It's up on the live section of the page. Um, there was truth content to what was said in many ways. Um, in the same way that, I use this quote a lot. I forget who said this, but there was some famous theologian or biblical scholar, and a student said to him, but professor, this thing in the Bible, these people in the garden, the talking snake, did this really happen? Is this true? And the professor says, of course this didn't happen, and absolutely it's true. And I feel like our April Fools, the first 10 to 15 minutes of that, it's like, did this happen? No. Is it true? Yes. Make of that what you will. But very glad to see some lovely friends in the chat. Andrea says it was kind of silly, but kind of lovely. Natasha liked it, so thank you very much. Today is not an apologies video. If anything, today's vibe is hashtag no apologies. Regret nothing. Apologize for nothing. And hopefully none of the Canadians took offense to the idea that I would go, um, to Canada for re-education. The joke there wasn't at all to make fun of our great neighbors to the north. It's that our corporate headquarters are in Toronto. So the joke was that I was being shipped to corporate headquarters to be re-educated. JK LOL in the chat says, I very much enjoyed the first principles discussion last stream. Any chance y'all could do a deep dive video on that at some point? I think that's a really good idea, JK. LOL. Roz ATL, I'm glad you felt empathy and you're not mad. Empathy rips, guys. Never feel weird for being empathetic, even if it's too much. You can never have too much empathy. That's what I think. But yeah, we talked about the importance of first principles in our thinking, our ideas, and debating things like that. And, so you bring up that idea of doing a video on it. I had this idea for doing a video called something like The Myth of Objectivity or Why We're Not Objective. And the video, this is me just pitching a video to you all. I normally do this to my colleagues, so I'm curious what you all think. The video would be something like, we get accused of not being objective, and people say I miss when Wisecrack was like an objective channel hosted by real philosophy people and not this weird male pattern charlatan. Um, but it would get into the idea that like the notion that one could have a philosophically and politically engaged analysis that was purely objective involves like a mythological conception of rationality and subjectivity in which there's such a thing as some mathematical computational objective way of looking at things rather than philosophy and theory and all this sort of stuff involving our subjectivity being grounded in the specificity of our existence in our world and then us having to make decisions from within those situations. So there you go. Natasha says, since when has philosophy been objective? Absolutely. Absolutely. Dr. Clownicus, no way. I don't want rage bait engagement anymore. Now I'm just like, I'd rather have no engagement and just good vibes, you know, except at the Outback Steakhouse. Fuck that place. Thanks to those of you who watched Friday's video, that one went poorly. I'll tell you what happens. A little inside the crack, inside the hole. What's up, Logan? Logan's great, guys. Logan Reese is in the chat right now. If you don't follow Logan on social media, you should. He's
Yeah, what's up, Logan?
a writer, a politician, a musician, a Southern gentleman, all the things you want from a modern man. But what happens when a video comes out? For the first hour or two on Friday mornings, I'm obsessed with the computer because what I'm looking for, like the stream if you haven't already. It helps us a lot. Let's get some nice people here. Like the stream. We love you. We love you. Eric, you're not late. When you're here, you're on time. And your family. This stream is brought to you by the Olive Garden. Breadsticks are so fun. Breadsticks hurt someone when they give them diabetes. So what happens when a video comes out, I'm staring at the computer and we get numbers, right? They tell us how the video is doing. And there's this metric we get. Some of you know this, but YouTube tells you where a new video ranks in your last 10 videos. So it'll be ranked like one of 10 or 10 of 10, let's say. And last week's video, that was on democracy, free speech, and had Elon Musk in the thumbnail, started at like 1 out of 10. So we're like, yeah, let's go. And it went to like 2 out of 10, and we were like, oh, okay. And it just kept dropping and dropping. And then like we changed the thumbnail because maybe people hate Elon Musk, so we'll change the thumbnail. But then it dropped more, so let's put Elon back. And the comments got really aggressive, and people were accusing us of being like anti-democratic fascist. And it was just like a bummer of a day because, of course, we want a video to do well because we work hard on them and we want people to like them. That's the whole reason for doing this. But also when a video does bad, it's like bad for us in terms of like, can we stay alive and keep making money so I can take my kid to the doctor? Yeah. So, a little bit of that as well. So it was just a wild one. If anyone has thoughts on the free speech video, and if you have thoughts on why you didn't like it or why it didn't hit, I have some thoughts on why it didn't hit, but always very curious and into feedback. Thanks to anyone who has signed up for the Patreon recently. I know we have new friends on Patreon. We have new friends on our Discord server. It's nice to see people there. I'm going to say this though: if anyone's in our Discord server or our Patreon, and you ever have issues, ever feel like there's things you want to say that you can't say in the Discord or whatever, like reach out to me. Reach out. Let's chat. Let's chat. Shifting Tides. The engagement numbers were good. The problem is everyone downvoted the video, and when people downvote a video, then YouTube doesn't show it to people. That's why we say things like, you know, um, thumbs up. Garrett Davins is bringing up Inherent Vice. I love Inherent Vice so much. I think it's so underrated as a movie. Did you have thoughts?
Yeah, that movie, I don't understand it, but like in a good way. Um, Honestly, like I've watched it a few times. I love Paul Thomas Anderson. I either find it boring or I check out or I try paying too much attention to it and I'm just like get lost. Like it's an enigma and like yeah, it's also just like even after reading the novel, which I was a fan of, I I don't know what is it that you love about Inherent Vice? I'm curious because I mean I like the master because of a lot of like textural stuff that I can't really commit to words. It's like you just kind of got to see it and experience it as an aesthetic
Yeah,
thing.
I
So
I'm
like
gonna answer that. I wanna say, Solring said he saw the free speech video in a Reddit thread, and we got review bombed. What Reddit thread? I'm very curious about that, Solring. And then Sean H said the title was poorly written. It primed people for conflict. Sean H, that's a great point. The hardest thing with titles, right, is if you title them too literally and subtly, people don't care. So then it's like, what title can it be that'll make people be like, wait, what's that? I want to click. But then, we can go too far that way as well. Speaking of titles, though, sorry, 1 second. But yeah, so that's kind of uh, some thoughts on the title thing. Hold on 1 second. Talk amongst yourselves, chat. I need to send a message. Let's see. Um, uh, so sorry. just catching up in the chat. Now, oh, I'm in Reddit threads of a political spectrum. I saw you in a liberal thread. Don't know if it was coordinated. People were sent there. Okay, that's great to know. I mean, I'm gonna say this like only because I totally see how some people were saying as well in the chat that that video was confusing. I just want to sum up the main idea to it. So yeah, Ti Squirrel said the free speech video seemed to be a little bit anti-free speech. Um, I totally get that. So here is the point, and I'm curious what people think about this. The point was to say you have people like Elon Musk who um, are saying things like, you know, Twitter is a space of pure free speech. Free speech is good. If you criticize anything, you're against free speech, yada, yada, yada. I guess the point of that video is to say, whenever we say as a society something is like just good, free speech is just good, we should at least ask why, right? Like, what is good about free speech? And that might sound like we're questioning it in an anti-free speech way, but the point is to just say, like, we should question our first principles to relate to something we talked about before. And then to jump in to kind of continue from there, the thought is, well, what is free speech good for? Well, free speech is good for allowing us to collaborate, deliberate, and communicate in such ways that we can form better ideas and push each other to create a better society. Now, I'll use Aristotle as an example, someone who thinks democracy is good and important. Aristotle thinks that ideas should be formed collectively in dialogue. But his whole point would be that we can't have a free speech facilitated democracy if we don't have an educated citizenry. And part of what we were trying to get in that video is like, is free speech on Twitter or social media good if everyone can just say whatever the fuck they want and just like use slurs and you get pussy in bio post and they send fake shit, everyone makes stuff up, and then there's incentive of course on Twitter to say things that garner attention and are dramatic, all this sort of stuff, right? So the point was to say, like, maybe before we just jump to free speech is the best thing, we should also ask, like, what can we do to create the conditions for a more educated and informed free speech? And then the thing that I personally find interesting about, you know, Plato's point about philosopher kings, which people don't like, right? Because when you first read that, and I get it, when I first I thought it was sus. When I used to teach that, I thought it was sus. But his whole point is we live in a society where rather than people being motivated by truth, they're motivated by flashy rhetoric and they're motivated by fear and hatred and not ideas. And I'll just be 100% honest, guys. I live in the United States of America, USA, and we have an election this year with a couple of old guys that were in the other election. And like when, regardless of what side of the dividing line you're on politically, they're just gonna say shit to rile up emotion, right? Biden and the Democrats will be like, "We need to save democracy. If you don't vote, it's your fault. The democracy's over." And on the other side, they're gonna be like, "They'll kill the Christians. No, no Christians. No Christ. They hate Christ. 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 If you know, if you don't vote for me." And none of this is real, right? They should be voting on what we should be voting on is policy. So people should be arguing for here is a policy that myself and my party support. Here's that policy will do. But that's not why we vote, right? And Plato saw versions of this in his society because the Athenians killed his dog Socrates. So he was basically saying, like, if all democracy gives us is a bunch of moneyed assholes motivated by power, I would rather have a weird crew of philosophers that live off in a cabin in the woods and don't get to have like money and don't fuck. I think they don't fuck. Or maybe they fuck. I forget. I forget that part of the republic. If you remember, if the philosopher kings fuck, let us know. But you know, he's just like, I would rather have a crew that are dedicated wholly to wisdom and like let them captain the ship than those guys. So that's the point there. And, you know, of course, I'm curious what you'll think about it. So I think that that's like a again, I think it's interesting to think about this stuff, and I think what's not interesting is to hear an idea like that and then just be like, Henry, great job on the title. Mine says, "Is lust underpaid workers?" That's sexy though. No, it's sexy. AI is lusty. Shout out to everyone who has lust in their heart today. I see some conversation about Reddit. I do love Reddit though. I just like my Reddit is very curated. Sometimes people find me on Reddit though, because I've had people that then like have DM me on Reddit and they realize who I am. Um, so there you go. Yeah, but then somewhat blue 2x said ironic that free speech people would shout you down for using free speech. And that is kind of funny too. But yeah, there you go. What's up, Lexa? Great to see you. So I get why, again, I get why that video was a little bit controversial. Um, but I think there's some good ideas there worth considering. Worth considering. I want to look at some comments from last week that producer Henry pulled up. Um, the first one is the first one, the Dan Flashes one. Oh shit. Okay, let me go back. Um, dun, 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 dun. Oh, here we go. James Burrows left. James Burrows, I would say like James Burrows stands on business. James Burrows puts their money where their mouth is because James Burrows, the whole last stream, it was really funny because the last stream got incredibly spicy. And there have been valid critiques that one, Michael Burns, this guy, got distracted by the chat and let the chat dictate his behavior. Something you guys will notice is when people haven't watched our stream before, they'll watch it. And notice I say it's our stream. They'll come in the comments and be like, why do you keep talking to the chat? And it's just like, that's my family, dog. You want me to ignore my family? Like, no, who raised you? But James Burrows is in the chat, and I was like, this person's real upset, but they're not mad at me about the other thing. They're mad about the YouTube homepage and our playlist. And James says, sorry about bugging you guys about YouTube homepage. It's just that YouTube never seems to notify me when you post a video. So occasionally I'll swing by and check, but your homepage playlists are dead. So I legit didn't watch your videos for like a year, not realizing you guys made so many cool new videos. Thanks for updating and sorry for the hassle. It gave us $10. Shouts to James. And we did. Producer Olivia handled it because after the stream, I was like, Olivia, this guy James is coming in hot. Is there truth to this? So shouts to James Burrows. The next comment said, I love this so much. Jordan Peterson only shops at Dan Flashes. So good. They have their it's his exact
Such
style.
elaborate patterns.
Like his exact style. When Jordan Peterson goes on speaking events, he doesn't eat lunch because he uses this per diem for Dan Flashes. Scoot Boise M3 says, where do I pay to hear Burns and Henry's conversations after the stream ends? Should that be a thing? Should we have like a Patreon only after the stream, 15 to 20 minutes, where we just kind of we let them know or what we really think?
Yeah, and then there's a higher tier where you just have access to a fly on the wall camera in our living spaces, just for complete access.
I like it. I like it. Yeah, let us know if you want to hear those conversations. Brolo214 says, so this is a good time to mention that Wisecrack never really links things to ancient alien, Sasquatch, or lizard people. I mostly dig the content, but this is a real gap. Do better. Just some constructive criticism. It's like we hear you, we get you, we feel you, and we want to do better. What more can we say? What is what stood out to you about that one, Henry?
I too would like to do more Bigfoot essays. I think it's a
Uh,
topic that needs more scrutiny.
I love it. I love it. Loinkin Pork says, as a Canadian, I was deeply hurt by Michael's comments last week about the proud art form that is debate. Debate is central to the Canadian identity, which is why Dr. Jordan B. Peterson is so immeasurably good at it. Yeah, he is. Again, I don't want to start any shit, but Jordan Peterson is okay. I've rethought something. He's the smartest man alive. He is not only going to fulfill the promise of Christendom, he's going to do it while looking great, and with the intellectual rigor of if Albert Einstein and a lion fucked and had a baby. That's what I think. This comment is from Slash is my homie. I used to really want a dog named Slash. Also, if you can tell me what 90s movie, which was Michael's favorite movie as a kid, included a dog named Slash. I'll give you a hint. It was a golden retriever. If anyone in the chat, and if you're watching this after in the comments, if you could tell me what 90s movie featured a golden retriever named Slash, I will give you a prize. I don't know what it is, but I will literally give you a prize. But they said, I stand with Michael. If he's gone, I unsubscribe. That's a promise. Thank you very much. That's very kind of you to say. And I really appreciate it because guys, they might try to get me at some point. They might try to get me. And when they get me, I'm glad to know that people will be there. I realize I forgot to tweet out the stream link, so I'm going to do that right now. So we can get some of our Twitter friends in. And I don't think I put it in our Discord as well. So I'm going to do that really quick. I'm taking it so mellow today, guys, that I'm just like doing stuff as we do it. Streaming now. Had a long morning. Had to get up early. Feed the kid, things like that. I don't really have a kid. It's just an ongoing bit. What's up, Sean? Good to see you. I don't want to. Not homeward bound, guys. Not homeward bound. Not Airbud. Eric is the closest. Now, Eric isn't correct, but I would say spiritually he's the closest. Also, the Airbud thing, you're wrong, but there is similarity between Airbud and the title of the movie that I'm talking about. What's up, Gamer Gen? So again, today's big trivia question is, and Gamer Gen, gift and memberships, we love it so much. Not Brink, but that's so close. Again, the clues are there. Like if you consider Brink, consider Air Bud. There's hints there. If someone gets this, I'm gonna be very impressed. Not Rad. Not Look Who's Talking Now, Logan. Not yes, it's Pocahontas. No, there's no dog named Slash. I mean, I'll say it. Air, and Brink. Think about there's something with yes, Logan got it. Airborne, guys. An early Jack Black film. Airborne was my favorite movie growing up. I had a girlfriend in high school. Yeah, I had a girlfriend in high school. It didn't listen, it didn't work out well, but I briefly had a girlfriend in high school. It took me until junior year. But it was cool to have a girlfriend in high school. And she was so cool that she found me a VHS tape of it that she had to order from like a Walmart in another state. So there you go. And I've told this story before, but just because this references Jack Black smiled at my child recently. That's a real thing that really happened. I swear to God. It feels pretty great. So let's check out this article. We're using the Gizmodo one, right? Great. So let's talk about this, guys. And please like the stream if you're here. So Amazon's had these stores, and I like this story because it gets at a lot of stuff. It gets at consumer culture. It gets at the promise of AI and technology and the goodness of the future. So Amazon's had these stores where presumably you walk in and you get your bag and you put your things in the bag and then you just walk out. And their magical technology makes this happen. And like this is the future. Right? The future is you just walk out. If anyone has someone called Airborne Brink's bastard cousin, I didn't quite see who saw that. I'm gonna come to your house and slap you in the face. How dare you? How dare you?
No apologies, Devil Michael today.
Brink was a bitch. The guy in the rollerblader in Airborne, I think his name was Mitchell Gooseman. Oh, and Seth Green's in Airborne. Um, some great guys. It's so fun. It's probably really problematic too. Wait, what did Michael do? Oh, Solrak, I'll say this. Just to be clear, since last week, some people reached out who are big Destiny heads who were like, "Hey, I'm just like a cool normal person," and I was like, "Hey, thanks for being a cool normal person." So there you go. Let's see. Solrak says, "Didn't you call Destiny dumb on Twitter? I think that's why you got some hate from his fans. You also admitted to only watching clips, which isn't really a valid way to understand. I know the hard thing though, for Solrak is like when someone, and this would be this would be true for like Hassan, this is true for Destiny, this is true for any, heavy streamer. Like, where do we draw the line, right? It's so hard. And I would say the same thing. Like, people have watched YouTube Shorts clips of stuff that I've said on stream, and they're like, this is the stupidest person I've ever seen. And to that, I say, probably. But also, it's hard when you see 45 seconds of a longer stream. So, Solrak, I think that's totally fair. It is just an issue sometimes of like, there's only so much time in the day, right? So, for example, like I went and watched a sort of summary set of clips from the Norman Finkelstein debate, but I just didn't have 5 hours to watch the whole thing. So I had to pull some things from that. And I guess that like the thing that I called dumb on Twitter, which is you're right, was a tweet where Destiny said that since October 7th, leftist support terrorism and like cheer on terrorists. And I said that is a dumb thing to say, which I do think is a dumb thing to say. I don't think it makes anyone a dumb person. Like I say dumb stuff a lot, and there's many things I've said that you could say that was a dumb thing to say, and I would be like, "Dog, you're right. That was a dumb thing to say." But it doesn't mean I'm a dumb person. So, I totally get what you're saying there, and I totally get why some people got annoyed. I would hope that here's all I would say. I hope that if someone ever calls me dumb on Twitter, that a lot of you, especially the green username crew, I hope that you wouldn't jump in that person's mentions and be like, "Fuck you, you pussy." And I don't think you would. Like I can't see Lexa Power coming at someone and being like, "Hope you die, bitch." You know? I don't know if I could see John Chu or Penny Waldrop being like, "Come for my boy and I'll slit your throat." Like, I just hope you wouldn't, because I hope you would just be like, "This is the internet. It's dumb. Who cares?" But all I'd say is, Solark, I totally get what you're saying. Alley Cattails. See, and Alley Cattails was so helpful last week. Alley, after last week's stream, posted a bunch of clips from some Destiny streams and other stuff on our Discord that I watched and was like really helpful. And the cool thing about Allie was last week jumps in Discord and was like, "Oh, Michael, I think this might be a little bit extreme what you're saying here, and here's why." And I'll just say this. By doing that, I was like, "Oh, I'm going to listen to what Allie's saying because she's treating me like a human person. I'm going to then take seriously what she's saying, and then I'm totally going to be willing to revise my opinions because my buddy Alley Cattails was just like, "Hey, I think you could maybe look at this differently." So all I would say is, in the future, if you want people to change their mind, if you want people to get on your team, I would just say like I would just say to be like Alley Cattails in life in general. Um, so there you go. So let's talk about this Amazon thing because it's really fun. It's really fun. Actually, Dare Johnson's right though. Chris Maverick could wreck some fools. Chris Maverick will fuck someone up, and I really appreciate that. The nobody. I don't dislike you. I like you. You're our official South African correspondent. Okay. So this story, it says Amazon ditches just walkout checkouts at its grocery stores. If you've been to one of these stores, let us know in the chat. Have you ever been to one of these in life, Henry?
No, I've been to one of their bookstores. That was a while back, though. I went to it once just to kind of see what was up with it, and then, I mean, there's other bookstores I prefer to go to. It was more for the novelty of experience.
I mean, I feel like Austin would have something like that, you know?
I think they do. I know, like, they purchased Whole Foods, and there's something going on there, but I generally don't shop at Whole Foods or the Amazon bookstore.
Dang, I was trying to get you to snitch on where you hang out so that people could find you and roll up on you and
Uh,
talk about your tankiness.
I wouldn't mind bumping into someone at like Book People downtown.
Okay.
That's a fun spot where it's safe enough ground to chill and talk about whatever we're reading.
Yeah, this is our new segment. We're gonna casually drop places where we hang out if you ever want to find us in a cool way. Um, you can find me in the steam room at a number of Korean spas. So this article says Amazon is phasing out its checkoutless grocery stores with just walkout technology. I've just walked out of some stores owned by Amazon in my day. They did not have the just walkout technology. First reported by the Information Tuesday, the company's senior vice president of grocery stores, fun job, says they're moving away from Just Walk Out, which relied on cameras and sensors to track what people were leaving the store with. Just over half of Amazon Fresh stores are equipped with Just Walk Out. The technology allows customers to skip checkout altogether by scanning a QR code while they enter the store. If you think this is boring, let's get ready for the next line, kids. Let's get ready for the next line. Though it seemed completely automated, Just Walk Out relied on more than 1,000 people in India watching and labeling videos to ensure accurate checkouts. The cashiers were simply moved offsite and they watched as you shopped. This keeps happening where a technology is served to us. Something's AI, something's automated. It's a digital process. You don't have to worry about human efficiency, da 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 da. And it's just a bunch of like poorly paid workers in probably a really hot warehouse in India watching screens and tracking us. I don't know, guys. It seems like in the course of human history, there's been a lot of things that happen where it's like cool, new, efficient technology. It's just people not getting paid a lot overseas doing stuff. Um, and this is another instance of like a company owned by the smartest man in the world, and it's not what they said it was. It's not what they said it was, guys. Um, and I love this so much. There was another, and I forget the exact example. Someone in the chat might remember. There was another thing that happened kind of recently where some AI system or whatever did this, and it just reminds me of like the Tim Ferriss 4-hour work week thing. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Timothy Ferriss, one of the worst proponents of psychedelics in the world. If there's any Tim Ferriss heads in the chat, I'm saying that because he's one of those people that's like do psychedelics, and then you'll work better and be more productive. I'm just like, dog, that's not the point. I would tell you to watch our psychedelics videos, but they all got taken off YouTube. Um, and our channel got threatened with closure because of that. And I had to do a training course that told me what YouTube standards are. Some of them were like, in a video, you teach people how to make meth. Is this good or bad? And I was like, I wonder which one. And I'm not exaggerating very much. Um, so going on, it says instead, Amazon is moving towards dash carts, a scanner and screen that's embedded in your shopping cart, allowing you to check out as you shop. These offer a more reliable solution than just walk out. Amazon Fresh stores will also feature um,
Chat will be right back.
hey, I think we're back. Everyone, Jeff just left. That was crazy. That was crazy, guys. The lights went off in the room, and then I felt a tickle on my neck, and then it was just Jeff Bezos was over there. But we're back. Thanks for being here. I guess like the stream if you can, because now the numbers are out because everyone left. Oh, maybe I shouldn't have said that thing. I just didn't know how to get in touch with JJ. I might delete that. Hopefully she saw it. Um, but I don't want to make it a whole thing. Um, so we're back now. We're back and we're alive. The Discord is Patreon only. There was one point where we were getting YouTube members on. I don't know if that's still happening. If you want to reach out and try to make it happen, we're just very underserved. Is underserved the right word? We're just understaffed right now. Okay, so let's get back to what we're talking about. We're talking about the Amazon Just Walk Out stores. And we're talking about the Amazon Just Walk Out stores said they were using cool technology so that you could just go shopping and leave. But then what had happened is that it was 1,000 people in an office in India watching cameras and tracking you, and that's what was making it happen. Now, a few interesting things here. In one sense, we have the common theme of technology that's being sold to us and pushed on us with a certain set of promises that tends to be untrue, right? In which we think that technology has done some great thing, but it's really just outsourced human labor. We also have to ask, like, do people want this? Do people want to just walk out? Do people want self checkout? I don't know about you guys, but I don't want self checkout. I would much rather go to a store and have a normal line and interact with a human. So we always have to ask, like, what is the point here? Because it's always sold to us as making life more convenient, letting technology automate aspects of our lives that are so annoying and bad. But often these things just boil down to we get to fire people now. I don't know if any of you guys watched the Jon Stewart main segment from The Daily Show on Monday. It's on YouTube. We would watch it here, but Paramount will then strike our stream out and no one will ever get to watch it again. But it was about AI and a lot of recent claims about AI from some tech CEOs. And there's one CEO of a company who, fired 90% of his workforce due to automation or using AI systems. And in an interview, this CEO, and again, I can't remember his name. It's a dude, but you can watch the whole thing over on the Daily Show YouTube channel. An interviewer says, "Isn't it kind of horrible, bad, immoral to fire 90% of your workforce?" And the guy says, "Well, if we're thinking like humans, yes." And, Jon Stewart reacted to that in a very funny way, as he should. But so often this logic, when you have to say, like, thinking like humans, yes. If we were to think like humans, this is bad. And then it's like, what are we thinking as then? What are we, why, what? And this actually relates to the video that's coming out Friday is about work, about why we work. It's about retirement. It's about lazy girl jobs, but this will relate to some of that. So now they're rolling out their dash cart, their smart shopping carts. Again, I think that's something that no one really wanted. It says Just Walk Out was first introduced in 2016, presenting Amazon's biggest and boldest innovation in grocery shopping. Do we want innovation in grocery shopping? Is that an area where we've been thinking, what this needs is innovation? I don't know. The technology seemed incredible. There were some stumbles. It often took hours for customers to receive receipts after leaving the store, largely because offshore cashiers were rewatching videos and assigning items to different customers. Guys, I'm going to read this again. It often took hours for customers to receive receipts after leaving the store, largely because offshore cashiers were rewatching videos and assigning items to different customers. The system of scanners and video cameras in each store is also incredibly expensive. So we're taking away people that work at a store and they scan and they press the buttons and you're like, how are you today? And sometimes they want to talk and sometimes they don't. And it's fine. It's not their job to be our friends. And instead doing a system where you think you're leaving the store because like technology did cool stuff, but then a bunch of people in India are like watching video clips and then like assigning what you bought and then charging you later. It also says that the system of scanners and video cameras is incredibly expensive. Because why pay one person slightly above minimum wage to do a normal job when we could have an incredibly expensive system of scanners and video cameras, along with 1,000 employees in India to do that job? According to the information, 700 out of 1,000 Just Walk Out sales required human reviews as of 2022. I'm not an Oppenheimer type mathematical genius, but that means that only 30% of the Just Walk Out things are actually just walkouts. If you do a thing in life and only 30% of the time does it work, you shouldn't be good at it. If you were like McDonald's hamburgers, only 30% of the time are they actual burgers. Actually, who knows? But I just think you wouldn't be doing a very good job. It says this widely missed Amazon's internal goal of reaching less than 50 reviews per 1,000 sales. Amazon called this characterization inaccurate and disputes how many purchases require reviews. I bet Jeff Bezos showed up at that writer's house. The primary role of our machine learning data associates. They're machine learning data associates. Guys, they're not like you can't just give people job titles like this and then think that that means that you can still lie to us. The annotate video images was necessary for continuously improving the underlying machine learning model powering. So I got some emails recently. I wonder if anyone else has gotten these. Like on LinkedIn, it was some company that's doing AI and they're like hiring humans to review text and like write things up. I didn't take the job, although I could use the money. Um, but and like years ago, I had the weirdest job interview with some Silicon Valley dudes who wanted people to write jokes for AI systems so they could teach AI to be human. But again, it's like, is this technology really as magical as they want to believe if it takes armies of human beings to monitor and teach and write things for? The spokesperson acknowledged that these associates validate a small minority of shopping visits when AI can't determine a purchase. So I don't know. It's just not fun. Um, Someone in the chat said, "Can I?" Who's it? Narping the crime dog? Can I clarify the CEO's point? The communication from the CEO was poor because he's clearly a psychopath. Um, JJ Carter says, "Anyone else getting insanely paranoid? The chat GPT is just some kid in India talking to you." I mean, it's like for those of you who watch Last Week Tonight, which to use data to fuck with you. I know that lots of you watch Last Week Tonight because YouTube tells us what our audience watches when they're not watching our channel. So I know what you're watching, you filthy little freaks. No, you watch pretty good stuff, actually. A lot of the same stuff that I watch. So there you go. But a thing that came up in John Oliver is, the text messages you get where you get a text from a number you don't know and you text back and it's a wrong number, but then they like somehow say like, "Oh, thanks. Interesting to connect." And then you get a picture of like a very like attractive and like rich looking Chinese girl or something. And then they're like, "Oh, I just moved to Los Angeles too. I need friends." And you talk a little bit and they're like, "Do you like investing money?" And it's like, "Oh my God, of course I like investing. Do you have WhatsApp?" "Yeah, I have WhatsApp." Do you want to buy bit? "Yeah, I want to buy Bitcoin from you, sweetie. I feel like we're basically married now." Um, and I'm someone who historically has liked to say weird stuff and try to like egg those people on. My thing for a while was I would respond to those people as if I was OJ Simpson and send them pictures of OJ Simpson. So for a while on my photos, folder on my phone, I just had lots of pictures of OJ Simpson, which I guess could seem weird. Like if I was dating and I left my phone on the table and someone was like, "What's this guy about?" And they saw like 50 pictures of OJ Simpson, they might be like, "Oh fuck." But what they got into on the John Oliver show Last Week Tonight is they're not bots. Because I thought it was like AI or automated stuff. No, it's enslaved people. It's people that get kidnapped and held by gangs and forced to do that work. And if they don't do a good job, they get beat with belts and sticks. Sorry for anyone else who used to mess with those people and say they're just scammers. I think it came out recently as well that a lot of people on Twitter who do the pussy and bio thing um, are also often people that are they're held against their will and beat with sticks. All I have to say is there's a lot of things in our society that we think of that are automated technologies um, that are underpaid workers or enslaved people getting beat with sticks. Um, Amazon Fresh, the e-commerce giant's grocery store, first launched in 2007. It has over 40 locations around the United States. The company also owns Whole Foods, and many of Amazon's fresh experiments are seen as precursors for the large chain. I mean, listen, am I a big fan of Jeff Bezos? No, but I did learn that Tuesday is $2 off rotisserie chicken day at Whole Foods, and the standard rotisserie chicken is $8.99. So for $6.99, you get yourself a rotisserie chicken. If anyone out there is a little bit broke, getting a rotisserie chicken a week can do a lot for you. You can have hot chicken for dinner. You can make chicken sandwiches for leftovers. You can heat it up and add some spices and have chicken tacos. You can make chicken soup. You can then pick all the meat off it and use the bones to make a stock. This stream is brought to you by Whole Foods Chicken. on Tuesday. Use code Wisecrack for $2 off chicken. The company is reportedly keeping Just Walk Out technology in a small number of fresh stores in the United Kingdom and some of its Amazon Go convenience stores. Amazon has also implemented Just Walk Out technology at several ballparks around the country. These locations will keep the technology going. You know what? I'm remembering now. I have shopped someplace Just Walk. I think it was at an airport. Amazon is trying to further break into the grocery space to grow into another billion-dollar market, though it owns Whole Foods. The e-commerce giant still doesn't compete with food Goliaths like Walmart, Costco, and Kroger. Their push away from expensive tests like Just Walk Out may be a sign the company is looking to further expand its presence as a supermarket. I love it. I love everything about it. I love everything about it. I don't love anything about it. Maybe while we're on the topic of work, let's look at these Matt Iglesias tweets from yesterday.
All right, give me just a moment.
Which they take a fun turn. Let me know if there's any Yglesias heads here. Again, thanks for being here. Thanks for chatting. Thanks for hanging out. Like the stream if you haven't. And we're 55 minutes in, and I haven't done something that I normally do. Hey, if you haven't already, consider, if you have the money, joining our Patreon. Just telling you that there's a link in the description. You can do it if you want. You don't have to do it. You don't have to do anything you don't want to do, and that's what I like about free speech, and that's what I like about America. But yeah, we started $1 just to say what's up. At $5, you get videos early without ads. We put out a new episode of our podcast, Behind the Crack, this week. That's available to most Patreons. Let me know if you listen to it. It's hosted by our buddy Lux, and the whole team is on that stream, and we answered a bunch of questions from people in the Patreon community, and y'all asked some spicy questions, and we answered them very honestly. So there you go. Awesome. Yeah. So I just saw these this morning. They're from yesterday, but Matt Iglesias people, 10, 15, 20 years ago was like a young, smart person on the internet who was using data to tell it like it is. Oh my God, guys. Okay. I'm going to read this. I just saw a thing that's trending on Twitter, and it's Christian Visibility Day. Guys, if this is a real thing, if right-wing Christians have responded to the Trans Day of Visibility by starting Christian Visibility Day, Christians, you're visible. You've never been invisible. You're a very visible people. I'm gonna stop myself. My goal today was to have a very unspicy stream. So God is testing me. God, who is visible, because God's community is very visible. I'll click that hashtag after we do this. So Matt Iglesias says 5 years ago, and this is just a fun thread because of where it goes. 5 years ago, a reasonable optimist about remote work might have said widespread adoption would make people happier, less commuting, housing more affordable, fewer location constraints, and make people have more babies, more flexible family life. But none of that happened. Since I've worked from home, I'm less happy. My house is expensive, but I did make a baby. I did it all by myself too. Don't let them tell you that oh, a man can't do it. I did it all by myself. I did not. But he says none of that happened. And you might read this first tweet and just think to yourself, like, okay, Iglesias, this is a great point because, there was a lot of promises about work from home. We kind of fell in line, and it hasn't been great. And you know what? Maybe Iglesias is going to talk about the way in which one of the problems with work from home is that it turns our home life into our work life. It lets our boss enter our sacred space of domesticity. It doesn't really give us a break from a life of productivity and working for someone else. That's probably what he's going to say. But then he says this. I'm like Dostoevsky's Grand Inquisitor about this. I think deep down people crave to be enslaved by their employer to a fixed routine and place of work. They can't admit it to themselves, but they can't handle the freedom of flexible work arrangements.
Everyone was begging to get back to the office.
That's a pretty wild take. I want people crave. Okay. I don't think there's a lot of good sentences that can include the lines, people crave to be enslaved. Maybe that's a challenge for the chat. See if you can write a sentence that includes the line, people crave to be enslaved, that isn't really sus. Um, but yeah, I think that's pretty intense. And I've been thinking about this because, again, we have a video coming out Friday, coming out tomorrow for patrons. Because if you're a patron, you get the videos on Thursday. What do you think about that? But yeah, I mean, Henry, what do you think about this? I want the tanky perspective.
There's no coercive forces in this economy. People just crave to be to do these things.
Yeah, I just don't. I don't relate to that idea. I mean, and I'll say this too, like I like structure. I like structure a lot. And I got shit on stream recently when I said the thing I hate about work from home is that I now have to like pay for the space and resources to do my job. Um and I genuinely, when Wisecrack's office was like a 15-minute walk from my house, I loved it. I would much prefer to leave my house and work for a bit. So when I come back to my house, it'd be different if I could afford a place to have like a separate office. I'm trying to move apartments right now. I'm not going to tell you where because don't come to my house and expect me to make you a chicken piccata and give you a back rub. But I when I'm at home, I'm kind of like I sit on the couch part of the day. My back hurts, my neck hurts, and I don't really have room for a full desk office space thing. But yeah, that we crave that and can't admit it to ourself. And then his next thing here relates to what we talked about um what we talked about in the video on Friday. He says relatedly, when people retire early, do they see their friends more? Nope, social connections wither and cognitive decline accelerates. And he links to a paper there, which seems fair. And the little summary of the paper he links to says this paper explores the interrelationship between early retirement, mental health, especially cognition, and the size and composition of social networks among older people. I mean, I wonder if it seems like it is an American based study, but this is one of the things actually that my friend and colleague, Benjamin Lucille Shapiro, said on the internet recently that we talk about in the video that comes out Friday. And we talked about it here a little bit is um, Benjamin Shapiro said that retirement is bad. No one should retire at 65. No one in general. We need purpose. We need something to do. And that's what work gives us. And I mean, I'm curious what people think about that. My sense would be that we are confusing some categories here, or maybe like missing the point. If we're going to say that if people have nothing to do and they sit around all day watching their stories and eating pizza rolls, is that going to be good for social and cognitive development? Of course not. But does it mean that they have to be doing wage labor in a inherently coerced way, as Henry pointed out before, to have that purpose and to have that meaning? I got obsessed when I was on maternity leave with blue zones and the blue zone lifestyle and the blue zone diet. It's a little bit hokey, guys, but I'm a little bit hokey. If we don't know what blue zones are, they're regions of the world where people live longer than everywhere else. It's like Okinawa, Japan, an area of Greece, Costa Rica, Loma Linda, California, um, maybe like Sardinia or something like that. But a thing that all these places have in common is that people have strong communal and social ties. They eat pretty healthy foods. They move around a lot. They don't work too much, and they drink wine, more or less. And the gist, and it's like true. And the gist of this research is that you know, people get obsessed with like, I need to get a blood boy so I can live forever. But it's actually like if you don't work all the time, you live someplace where you like hang out with people that love you and care about you and you interact with them socially, you eat pretty healthy and you move around a bit and enjoy a glass of wine, you'll have a much longer and happier life. And I think that like we then have to ask, should we keep people working forever? Or should we make sure as a society we prioritize social and communal spaces that are not tied to labor and commerce.
Yeah, if a person stops working and that leads to like an extreme mental decline, I question like, well, why was that person conditioned to make work such like a central focus of their purpose in that way to where it's if they can't do their job, it's mentally damaging because they haven't been educated or taught to like have a different perspective on purpose and like fulfillment in life.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, and I'll say this on this great day. I'm sending you an insane tweet right now, Henry. Maybe we should pull it up. Maybe we shouldn't. Um, on this great day of Christian visibility, I will say that a nice thing, and I'm really saying this about religion and about churches and stuff like that, are they create spaces of community. Like we need spaces of community. I think about this sometimes with like people who I think are cool that live a long time often tend to be like musicians and artists. And I'm like, oh, why do these people live forever? Their lifestyle isn't inherently healthy. They're like around people and they do stuff. But I think the underlying logic, or not underlying, the overt logic of what Iglesias saying here, I guess, is that to really be happy, we need to be like more or less chained to our desks with a fixed routine and a boss who tells us how to live our life. And we need to do that for as long as possible because without leisure, with too much leisure, we'll be miserable. And this directly ties into our video. And I really hope people watch it. I promise the title won't be too spicy. I hope. Um, yeah, let's just pull it up, guys. Here's here's a tweet for Christian Visibility Day. It's President Trump, and there's like soldiers and cops and an American flag, and this is what it means to have Christian visibility. I love it. This is like our country. To get back to the Plato thing, like, I mean, this is okay. I said I was going to be spicy on stream today, but I mean, this is like kind of where like democracy has got us. So, but yeah, and although I guess people are saying just so I see another tweet that says we patriots are declaring November 5th Christian Visibility Day. Yeah, this is a lot. This is a lot, guys. Um, shout it out if you're a patriot in the chat. Be proud of who you are. So Gary Peterson USA. Um, oh my God, this guy's. I hope this is real. This guy's profile rips. It says Patriot, Bible reader, mall Santa. I like women. Is this a real account? Or is this a parody account? I gotta know. Um, let's see. No, this can't be
This
real.
has to be a parody account based on
Yeah,
based on who follows it that I'm looking at.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So this one's fake. Oh, it's so fun though. I love I love this. Patriot Bible reader Mall Santa. I like women. Um, but the crazy thing, I'm looking at like the Christian Visibility Day thing. I'll tell you one. Oh my God.
I'm just kind of scrolling through the hashtag right now. Our screens may not sync up on it, but
Yeah, that's
wow.
fine. But one thing I'll say, and I think this actually relates to the free speech video, right? Um, a lot of what I'm seeing under Christian Visibility Day on that's coming on November 5th is people posting about how bad it is and how dumb it is. And this happens a lot these days where someone starts posting, something is trending, and then I look at the people talking about it, and it's only people that are mad at it because, of course, you know, anger and frustration drive what we talk about. But it's like we're just fueling the fire. We're just fueling the fire. It's so hard, but I'm really trying not to do that. Um, Jay Ashland says we need Christian Visibility Days badly. Pride Month, which is saying not at all. I mean, I guess the difference would be, and this would be my genuine, and I've had like family and friends that have said that. I guess the difference, Jay, would be that, like America's never been a place, and I'm just speaking to America, where Christians have been like oppressed or not able to exist in public or not able to live their beliefs or whatever. It's always been like, you know, you can just be a Christian in America. It's a largely, Christian nation. I think the reason why we have things like Pride Month is because there's a long history, and it's pretty recently in America where, gay people could get the shit beat out of them for just like existing, where people couldn't get jobs or participate in society, and earnestly express their sexual orientation and their desires, and in which even like certain illnesses were not treated and prioritized by the government because they were like gay diseases. um, and I think because of all these things and more, Pride Month is a way to say like, hey, let's give increased visibility and support to a marginalized group of people. I think the same reason why if someone ever says like, Black History Month. What about White History Month? Well, one could rightly be like, every month since America has started has largely been White History Month. And, a very caucized version of history is what's often taught in school. So the point of a Black History Month is to say, let's give increased visibility to the history of a group of people who have largely been written out of the historical narrative of this country. So I just think we always have to remember we're not operating on some, even equilibrium here. Uh, but there you go. What would be a good month to have though? What would be a good month to have that we don't have? Um, I want like little weird little freak visibility where all the weird little freaks can just come out.
Just Goblin Month.
Yeah, just like Goblin Month, Goblin Visibility Day. Goblins only get a day. I'm
Everybody
being
just
honest.
air their shame. Just a month where we all just drop the facade of social performance. It's like, yeah, this is where we're all at. These are our nasty
Yeah.
little vices. This is honestly what we're doing. We have this much debt. We have this much shame. Like this is
Yeah.
all a farce.
I want like weird sex afternoon where people into like weird sex stuff have an afternoon where they can be like, and I watch ice road truckers while masturbating into a cold sock owned by my grandfather. And for an afternoon, we're all like, hey, hell yeah, man. Next day, we're like, what are you doing? Or something like that. I don't know. Someone says
Just
riddle
soft
invisibility
iterations
day.
of the purge.
Yeah, soft. I like that. Squishy butt visibility day. That sounds kind of fun. A whole month of Halloween? Ooh, I don't know about that. Um, what? Oh my God. Honeyman's bringing out some demon possession stuff. There you go. Anti-respectability politics month. Sounds like a bad Rick and Morty episode says. Um, yeah. But that was just, a random live Twitter/X discovery. But it seems like it's probably a thing where a couple of people earnestly tweeted about Christian Visibility Day, and then a bunch of folks got mad at it, and they drove the discussion up about that thing. So, what are you gonna do? This stuff happens. But I like the idea that it's on November 5th. Wait, when is election day this year? Is that November 5th or this year? Let me just look it up.
Check the
Election
calendar.
day.
What's that Tuesday?
Yeah, let's see. Election day 2024 is November 5th. Yeah. Part of me thinks like we should do, even though we don't do politics, should we do an election night stream that doesn't talk about the election?
Just like
You
best
know?
things you could be doing now that your
Yeah.
mind's off it.
Yeah, like what if we have it? Let me know what you guys think. Oh my God, William, I said Amazon's Indian Slave Visibility Day. Woo! I think that would be fun just to do because I hate elections now. I used to like watching elections, but it's gonna suck. It's gonna be such a bummer. So maybe we can just do that. Um, I don't know, Sean, should we have Deadhead Visibility Day? That would be great. Um, so there's some other stuff I know. Let me pull up the doc. I know um, Henry pulled up lots of great stuff. What should we look at, Henry? You got the feedback loop thing, the algos thing. What are you feeling like?
The feedback loop thing's kind of a fun change of pace, getting off of technology and enslavement and talking a bit about pop culture and our relationship with, movies.
Okay, cool. let's look at this then. And I just want everyone to know, like, if we look at this art and you hate it and it makes you upset, it's all Tanky Henry's fault. I don't want to acknowledge the Tanky Henry thing. I just want to say that as if it's a normal thing. Um, Someone said, "How about flipping the camera upside down? What about streamer visibility day? You know, what about our community?"
The most
Uh,
oppressed group, gamers.
yeah, yeah. Gamers and streamers are the most oppressed people in all. Honestly, I would say they're the most oppressed people ever in human history. And like Elon Musk said, we've all been slaves. Boy, John Chu says group movie date. We've been wanting to do some sort of like live movie watch thing for a while. The logistics are a little weird copyright wise, and I think at one point we thought that maybe what we could do is do it be like the watch party thing on Amazon, but I think they're like not doing that anymore. Um, but we'll see. Michael, can you do jumping jacks on the D? I did not know where that was going, Honeyman 1917. Does that mean jumping jacks on? Wait, does that mean what I think it means?
I was getting the next article prepped, and just hearing you say that has me
Yeah.
confused.
Guys, I don't know if I can do jumping jacks on the D. But we could do weird old movies. One idea I had was to do like Adam Curtis movies because all the Adam Curtis movies, a lot of them are on YouTube. So we'd probably have to make it like a private stream because it wouldn't be able to stay live where we watched some Adam Curtis together. There you go. Let's check out his article from a new column. It's called Feedback Loop. This one's by Nicholas Pedrero Setzer. It says, over the last 2 months, New York City. Anyone from New York City watch the stream? Let us know. Has hosted two film series centered around criticism written in the 1970s. Film at Lincoln Center's Never Look Away, Serge Danny's Radical 1970s, and anthology film archives After Image, Counter Cinema, Radical Cinema. These series titles notably both feature the word radical. Love their, oh my God, Siri just started talking. Don't do anything, Siri. You are not invited to this. No one wants you here, Siri. Everyone hates you. Oh, now she's gonna. Let's see. We were at the word radical. Identifying the films in them and the criticisms they stem from as both inventive and politically direct. I mean, this is interesting because when we're still supposed to launch at some point our second channel where we're gonna do videos about movies, and the first one I was working on, it's kind of stalled right now because there's not. But mine was going to be about political cinema. So this is interesting. After all these films, these were films, and this was criticism made in the aftermath of 1988. It was filmmaking and writing to turn cultural forms in new directions. And for those who don't know the history, when we talk about 1988, especially for the youngins, shout out to all the. No, I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to say what I was about to say. I love when I exhibit self-restraint. I'm almost 40 years old, and I'm just learning how to do it. I got in so much trouble in school because I just couldn't not say things. Um, but 1968, sort of like the year of forms of cultural revolution in the 20th century. 68 in Paris is a really big thing. France more generally, you can look that up. But a huge moment, May of 68 in France, Paris in particular, is where a lot of students and workers got together and were just like, no to systems of of capitalism and things like that. Around the same time in America, you have, you got the hippies, you got the student movement, you got the anti-war protesters, you got the Black Panthers. Seemed like this moment where political consciousness was coalescing and expanding around the world. And then, of course, this affects art. There's a reason why we still consume literature and film and music and art from the late 60s and early 70s because it's an era that was pretty ripe with new ways of thinking and new ways of thinking that were reflected both, politically and creatively. So there's your history lesson for the day from someone that was not taking a history class in many moons, in many, many moons. Also, wait, someone said, I'm not going to get distracted by the chat. We will call the new channel Woke. Please like the stream if you haven't already. Thanks for being here. Thanks for hanging out. Says the series were occasioned by the release of 2 new books. I wish I read more books. Footlights, a collection of the French film critic Serge, probably if it's French, like Serge Denis, essays throughout the 70s, recently translated by Nicholas Elliott and released by Semiotics, and the Afterimage Reader, comprehensive anthology, the eponymous independent British film journal, published by the Visible Press. It's not atypical for the release of a new book to be accompanied by a film series, but it puzzled me that both these series were taking place with such proximity to one another. There was an argument embedded in the title, Never Look Away, and I had the feeling that the series were asking to look back in order to think about the future of criticism would be. Interesting. I mean, I do think as well, like, some of the eras of film criticism that seem the most interesting, and I guess this would be the case for art criticism, tend to accompany eras that are a little bit more political and ideologically interesting. And I think that's why, like, sometimes when I read criticism, let's say from the 60s or 70s and other periods as well, I'm like, oh my God, this film critic is basically talking about some big philosophical idea, or they're talking about, a Marxist interpretation of culture made about or by the working class. And we don't see as much of that anymore. And in one sense, it's because it used to be the case that someone could make a living writing long essays about film, or that one's whole career could be like having a good job going on TV and talking about movies or whatever it might be, or writing record reviews. Now it's really, 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 really hard to do that. But also, I think these were eras where people had art to react to that did have a lot more to say. Now, of course, there are films being made today with interesting and important themes. However, if you go back sometimes and look at the history of, Best Picture nominees at the Oscars, if you look at the quality of the movies, especially in like the 70s compared to now, it's just wild how much better they are. This guy says, looking back on the films I watched as part of these series, Blood of the Condor, Milestones, Numero Deux, Nationality, Immigrant, Hitler, a film from Germany, The Devil, probably the hypothesis, Painting Dogs Dialogue, From the Clouds of Resistance, and Angel. I'm going to be 100% honest. I have not seen one of these movies. Have you watched any of these movies, Henry?
No, I have not.
Cool. I feel like so full of shame um, in having never seen those things. Okay. So yeah, it's obvious that their assemblage represents a political argument. These films' subjects, leftist disorganization, the after effects of World War II, the abuse of mass media, and styles a mix of verite and fiction, narrative proliferation, formal experimentation, embody a type of cinema committed to understanding its history, advocating for new modes of political organization, and pursuing new forms of artistic expression. Sounds nice. Sounds nice, right? When media encourages us to do things like that.
Yeah, I see a list of things I have never seen before. I'm like, oh, now I have to hunt that down.
Yeah. Um, Wait, why is Alley Cattails happily dead? Tell my mama it's been real. Hope you're good. Um, Sometimes I just jump in the comments. I'm like, what is happening? I do like
Yeah,
the
what
idea of
just.
Wisecrack to electric wokeroo, too woke to crack. There you go. Woke people were really mad on the internet yesterday that in California they raised the minimum wage, and it means now that a double cheeseburger at In-N-Out costs 25 cents more. And I don't want to disregard the fact that 25 cents is an amount of money and there's struggling, but the idea that like people are more mad at a double cheeseburger being a quarter more than they are at the fact that up until this point, food industry workers haven't gotten paid enough to live is interesting. This is a digression, but then it's like, what do we see ourselves as primarily? Are we primarily consumers or are we primarily humans? Because I feel like if we're primarily humans, then my empathy and solidarity would be for other humans and workers. But if my primary mode of existence is just to consume, then my solidarity is with, I don't know, competitive market prices. I don't
Whatever
know.
maximizes my consumption?
Yeah. Should this be the stream where I have a live depressive episode? Shout it out in the chat if you want to see me have a mental health. Okay. So it goes on to say the films that they showed and the political reasons behind them remind you of the reason for criticism in the first place, the reason that critics like Denny were doing this. I think that the resurgent ideas around criticism and politics, especially in the last few years, have crystallized for a lot of young people. People who have grown up in the 21st century, during which film criticism has been marginalized and pushed to the sides of culture. I like that. I mean, it's interesting too that it feels like back in the day, and again, I'm going to speak more broadly about writing and criticism, that if you read older writing, you'll often have, film critics, music critics, even like sports writers who imbue their work with a sense of political and cultural awareness, which seems to indicate that these writers understood that we cannot remove a cultural product or a social or cultural event from its sort of enmeshment in a social, cultural, and political context, right? We can't, in a sense, like, and this is maybe going a little far, but you can't understand properly the first Iron Man film if you don't understand the context of the Bush era and the war on terror and the interaction of weapons manufacturing companies with the government. Now, that is not me saying that the first Iron Man film is some radical critique of those things, but it is to say that to watch that film without understanding those aspects of culture and society leaves something missing. And it seems like critics back in the day used to get that a little bit more. And again, too, I wonder if it's an issue as well of, is it that we don't have writers and critics who are making those points, or is that we don't have a culture industry that gives people like that the ability to get their work out there? I don't know. What do you think, Henry?
I think
Sorry
I
if I
think
caught you off guard if you were doing other stuff right then.
no. I think that there's a bit of both there in the sense that like what gets called criticism now is a lot of like listicles and quantifying in a way that seeks to like avoid the ideological for the sake
Mhm.
of what's profitable, and so that creates a whole kind of hollow sense of discourse over like what criticism is besides like chasing the tomato meter.
Yeah. This is one where I'm hoping that Dr. Professor Mr. Uh, Christopher Maverick, PhD, shares some comments later.
Right.
Um,
I was on the podcast a few weeks back. We were talking about human
oh,
kaiju
well,
movies.
why have we not promoted this on here, dude? What are you
It
doing?
was on a week where like we bumped the show and stuff. I talked about it on.
Oh my God. We're gonna put the link in the chat for God's
Yeah,
sakes.
we talked about human kaiju.
I
But like
want to watch this too. Oh, okay. Well, make sure. Look, guys, the Vox podcast. You should already check it out because Chris Maverick's podcast. But Henry was on it, so even more so.
But
Sorry, I didn't
anyways, the
know.
movie The Beekeeper comes up, which let me tell you, that's a 2 out of 10 movie. That's not a very well-made movie. However, it is articulating with its weird cultural kind of signifiers. It's a movie in which Jason Statham is beating up telemarketers to protect boomers from phone scams. And you cannot really make sense of that movie without kind of understanding just like the scam culture and kind of boomer paranoia in American society right now that like makes those things a profitable endeavor to make a
Wait,
movie about.
I heard this and I didn't know if it was real or not. So the beekeeper, was it something like Jason Statham is like friends with a kindly old woman and then she gets like scammed and killed or something, so he avenges her?
Yes.
Okay, that's sick. I heard someone say that and I was like,
He
surely
he
that's
will
not the movie.
regularly throughout the movie go on speeches about how scamming the elderly is worse than, stealing from children. And he makes some valid points about that, that you may agree with philosophically, up until he goes, and the solution is I'm going to torch this building to the ground.
Oh, that's pretty rad though. Now I want to watch that. Oh, where is this? Oh, so this thing goes on to say, as a writer who grew up during a period that the film critic Kent Jones characterized for its marginalization of cinema, it's clear to me that my contemporaries are dissatisfied with the diminishment of cinema's role in culture. This is why they favor watching old movies instead of new ones. And it's true, like cinephiles, can tend to have a little bit of that snobbery. The sentiment does not arise from nostalgia, but from the feeling that films are not grappling with the difficulty of our moment with the same commitment filmmakers have demonstrated in the past. Looking back presents us with um, examples of films that believed in alternative visions for society and remind us that there once were artists, and there still could be, who use the medium to challenge the status quo. We're living in desperate times, and young people are looking for profound art, not in an escapist mode, but to cope with the challenging times. For my idiot, who co-programmed Never Look Away when he asked him about this. I mean, that's interesting too, because I do think sometimes, and I wonder what y'all think about this. It's like when times are bad, in one sense, we do want profound art to help us process, think, and feel about bad times. But I do think it's an equal temptation that in desperate times we want to consume media that helps us abstract from those bad things. Like I think there's a reason why many smart people, many socially aware people will also be like, "Oh, I stayed in this weekend and watched all." The same people who probably do watch Adam Curtis documentaries. And I do wonder if people in the chat have thoughts on this. What the sort of limit is for what we can consume during like tough times, right? When the world is bad, what is the relationship between our desire to consume art that explores the badness of the world versus the way in which we want to consume things that help us sort of pacify those things? And then, of course, the larger question is when we're content, are we implicitly facilitating the badness of the world? Big questions for a big Wednesday. Blasphemous says, what's a to rewatch? I mean, this is my answer, and I won't say a specific. Um, Basically, any Coen Brothers film and any Paul Thomas Anderson film, with maybe a couple exceptions, I will rewatch. I mean, I know that, and this is canon for people who have been a part of the Wisecrack extended content universe for a while. The year or the winter that like Licorice Pizza came out, I don't think I've ever seen a movie so many theaters. I don't know
Ooh.
what it was about that movie, but I just found it so comforting and enjoyable at that time. Maybe because I was at one point a 15-year-old boy that just wanted a 27-year-old um, girl to fall in love with me. But another one for me, and this isn't like deep cinema or something, but the movie High Fidelity, starring John Cusack. I I I could watch that movie over and over for most of my life. I love that movie so much.
Yeah, you
So
brought up loving Inherent Vice earlier in the chat as well. The Master's definitely a highly rewatchable movie for me.
yeah, I mean, even though it's like intense, like There Will Be Blood, and then like Boogie Nights, I just think it's one of the best movies ever. Um, Steven
Oh
brought up
yeah.
Squid Game. Squid Game's so interesting, and we have a video on um shameless plug. But Squid Game's interesting because in one sense, like you could watch the original Squid Game as a way to think about our society and culture and economy, and then you could watch the reality tune out and not think about anything, um, which is fun. Um, Fun Opticom says the people who watched it at my house thought licorice pizza was weird and didn't like it. Home snobs like us. There you go. There you go. Um, Andre said, "Have you seen White Noise?" I when I watched White Noise, I maybe wasn't in the best state. Oh yeah, Lebowski. I could watch Lebowski over and over and over and over and over. Um, but I wanted to like White Noise. I like Noah Baumbach. I like Don DeLillo. I like that book. I did not like it. Sean watches Blues Brothers constantly. It's awesome. Oh God. In a recent video, I really wanted to the whole scene of them running the car through the Illinois Nazis. I love that scene so much when he says, "I hate Illinois," and they just. I mean, that's the thing too. People think that like punching Nazis is new. The fucking Blues Brothers guys, early '70s film. Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi uh, drive a car over a bridge full of Nazis. It's great. It's great. Lots of good movie recommendations in the chat. I'll go back to this piece. It says Desperate times call for desperate measures, not for palliatives, but solutions. The intellectual or political valence of going to see a film has become because the gesture of going to the theater needs to find ways to move beyond the film itself. I mean, I do think an interesting thing as well, and I a little not esoteric, but I think I've been thinking about recently, of course, is the difference between consuming art or media on your own and in a communal way. And God, guys, I forget where I said this. I might have said it on a stream. I might have said it on a podcast. I might have said it to myself. I might have said 9-month old. But I was listening to an interview with a musician recently. Forget who it was. I listen to a lot of like interviews with older jazz musicians because I find them very interesting. If you ever need a fun hobby to do, listen to interviews with jazz musicians. But this one musician was saying that it's weird for them to watch how their children experience music. Because this musician said, when I was growing up, a new record would come out and we would buy the record and go to someone's house, and me and my friends would sit around together. We'd put the vinyl on and we would have a shared experience of listening to this album. We might talk about it, we might not talk during certain songs, we might look at each other, holy shit. But we kind of had friendships and communities formed around experiencing art together. But of course, this person says, my kids now, and not to sound like an old man, but I'm just quoting a real old man. My kids just have their headphones in and they listen to songs, and it's like a thing that just they do. And I was thinking about this in the context of movies, because I feel like even when you go to a theater by yourself, there's still something experientially distinct about consuming art in public or consuming media in public. I would say the same thing when you go to a concert alone. A thing that's great, people don't go to concerts alone. It's pretty fun. You get over the initial awkwardness. And the awkwardest part about going to a concert alone, you get there too early and you're just like standing around and you're like, what do I do before they start? Look at my phone. What do? You just got to time it right. But yeah, but I think that's a part of this as well. Like, not only what are the films being made such that they're accessible, and then how are they being consumed? Are we getting out there to watch them? And not to be too, I guess, conspiratorial, but what is the difference between consuming a movie that has something to do with society and culture in an external setting versus doing it at home? And is there a mechanism by which doing these things at home keeps the ideas in the films detached from social reality at some level? Sorry if that was a little wild. Sean just pulled the trigger on fish. That'll be fun, Sean. I really think that'll be a fun. I was gonna solo Sphere for Dead and Co, but then some friends wanted to go. But I might solo for another one. Yeah, the last concert I went to before I had my daughter was King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard. I'd never really seen them before, and I went and I had a little snack before the show, just a little snack to make me feel nice. And it was a really nice time. And it was nice too being at that show alone because I could kind of just like wander around a big place. So there's some open seats, so I kind of wandered around a little bit. So there you go. Let's see. I'm just saying random thoughts as we read this. Next paragraph says, in the introduction of the latest issue of his film journal, Bombast, the film critic Nick Pinkerton writes, after spending so much of my adult life attempting to make a living as a professional of some kind, it began to seem like it would be more fun for myself and others, as well as useful, to be film unprofessional. This didn't mean slackening standards, but instead keeping standards up when so many of the extant outlets that paid for writing about cinema were encouraging a type of shallow, shirking, perceived wisdom criticism that was inimical to a healthy film culture. Demanding and perceptive thinkers have always existed outside, but rumination and criticism has more countercultural weight to it now than ever before. Okay, everyone tuck in, because I'm going to do something that's probably both an overreach and pretentious and spicy. So if you cannot handle me doing an overreach that's potentially pretentious and maybe a little bit spicy, tune out for a bit. Everyone good? You're still here? You're making a choice. I'm giving you a chance. That's kind of how I feel about some of the stuff that we do on YouTube and that people like the channel Then and Now, and people I talk about like Tom Nicholas and Alice Capel and CJ the X and Maggie May Fish and a lot of people we like on YouTube. I feel like they're people who are choosing to be like YouTube unprofessional. And a lot of the folks that I've critiqued before that do the debatey stuff and do the like spicy, quick take, big idea, you'll never believe. I think they're doing a sort of analogical version of the type of more boring corporate professional criticism that Pinkerton's talking about. And I think you see this thing in all forms of media where there's the thing you can do that fits the moves of the market better, that's spicy, it's shallow, which doesn't ask a lot, which isn't subtle, which doesn't have depth. And then there's a way to talk about things. So here when he talks about like, you know, criticism that facilitates a healthy film culture and criticism that doesn't, I think there's also sort of cultural criticism and commentary that facilitates a healthy culture. And there's commentary that facilitates a reactionary, bifurcated, fractured, angry culture. Um, and that line, especially when he says, demanding and perceptive thinkers have always existed outside institutional environments, but rumination and criticism has more countercultural weight to it now than before. When I asked film critics what type of criticism they'd like to read while conducting research for this piece, the word that kept, this is good, that kept being used to describe their ideal was rigorous. Rigorous feels like a forbidding word, but I feel like it's tied to this belief about criticism meaning something more than I want to be the pull quote on the poster. These days, rigor is radical. Honestly, another thing that I feel like overlaps, and this relates to some of the discussions we've had recently on stream about YouTube, about intellectual culture, about debate culture, about the types of intellectual figures who sometimes I can be critical of. I think there's a huge lack of rigor. And I think rigor sometimes could seem boring. And people will say, well, so and so does or so and so does this, but like I think rigor doesn't just mean you've done enough research. It's like thinking rigorously and thinking critically. And I think that in the current culture, there's like thinking rigorously maybe or thinking critically about the thinking of another or thinking of one's like enemy, but not enough internal rigor in thinking about how one thinks. And to reference the horrible Jordan Peterson thing we watched last week, which again, I'll just say this: if you watch that, I barely criticized the person that everyone got mad at me for. We mostly just talk shit about JP. Um, but I think JP doesn't operate with that level of rigor. Like when you make big claims that are easily debunked, when you make claims that are logically inconsistent with other things that you are saying, when your thinking is motivated by appeasing the ideology of the audience, you know, you're not operating with a sense of rigor. In the same way that, and I promise soon we'll do a stream where I don't mention Borden Dieterson, but in the videos we made about um, Lardon Teeterson's readings of postmodernism and Marx, in both instances, the critique was largely just a lack of rigor in that person's discussion. Like, I'm all for someone tearing down the work of Jacques Derrida. I'm not even, I mean, the thing is, I'm not even a big Derrida guy, but like, do it rigorously. Understand their ideas beyond just the big, buzzy terms, and then carefully deconstruct it for us in a rigorous way. If you're going to critique the work of Marx, understand it, operate with some rigor. In the same way, if I want to read someone talk about music or movies or any form of art, we want a sense of rigor and depth to that because, you know, we want to be smart, guys. We want to be smart. A dog formerly known as a cat said, full amount of shrooms and then roam in public. It's word salad meditation. I think if you can handle it and you're smart, it's a really nice thing to do. It's a very nice thing to do. Um, wow, I feel like people are like starting trips, planning outings and stuff like that. Um, let's see. Yeah, I feel like the last thing is more about that festival in general. I'll read this last line. This is bode well for not because they gesture at writing that will be influenced by the book's contents, but because they are evidence of an audience willing to criticism in films. That's interesting. And I think that's a really interesting piece because, um, we sometimes talk about movies here. I wish we talked about them more, but it says Mike is reaching critical levels of not working. RIP audio.
Yeah, you do keep getting some compression clipping. Uh,
Okay. I wonder if there's like audio settings I have running on Discord.
I'm wondering if there's like a limiter you have either on your microphone interact. Yeah.
Let's see. Let's see. Settings, voice and video. Um, input mode. Automatically determine input sensitivity. Should I turn that off? I wonder if that's doing it. I turned it off. How do I sound now? Talking. I'm talking. I'm yelling. I'm talking. I'm saying crazy stuff. I am. Am I there, friends? Can we hear me, friends? Am I involved? Okay. Wow, there's so many controls. Automatic gain control. Huh. Maybe that's what's going on.
That will just make you louder on your end.
Okay. I'll just take this route. Blasphemous says, I think people don't analyze things as heavily um, as they do. Well, I mean, here's the thing, too, right? That, like, I think a thing, our culture rewards hot and immediate takes. I have done this. You have done it. Henry probably hasn't because he's the best of us.
Oh, no, definitely. I'm yelling at people
JJ, have a
online
good one.
right now.
Christina. Yeah, but I think that it's hard to yeah, it's hard to exist in this media landscape, in this world, and this culture when you're not rewarded for thinking slowly and carefully, you know? I don't have any solution to that because it's hard to do. And I think, even when people say, and to be clear, people do this all across the board. I swear to God, I'm not talking about any particular person. But Alley Cactil says a little better, meow. But even if someone, and I've done this, if someone is like streaming and like, I want to learn about something, well, let me pull up some articles now. That's good, but I think our brains and learning and things like that, they're like a nice piece of meat, You gotta let it marinate. You gotta let it marinate for a little bit first. But as Sean Harriman says, no one's got time for nuance. Let's see. Should I just pull up this algos thing and look at this for a little
Yeah,
bit
I
before we
shared
wrap
that with
up?
the chat because I was not sure if we were going to be able to get to it, but we have a bit of time. Let's go for it.
Yeah, we've talked about this guy in some recent videos. This is an article from last month. Henry already shared it from The Verge. How to Save Culture from the Algorithms of Filter World author Kyle Shaka. Good book. And let's be honest, guys. Have I read this whole book? I have not, but I've read a lot of quotes from it and some chunks of it. Um, let's see. Oh, cool. So we just have a transcript of an article. I like that. So I'm scrolling down to where the interview starts. Um, okay, so this guy says, wait, I might actually skip ahead to hmm. Sorry. I just wanted to find a point where it gets into oh man, this is so okay. There's a part I think I want to start here. It's when it says your earliest approach at writing about Filter World was Instagram and Airbnb, which you were calling airspaces. Um, the early part of this is good. Everyone should read it. But it says your earliest approach to writing about Filter World was Instagram and Airbnb, what you were calling airspaces. As you expanded the concept into Filter World, it's everything. Different social networks take on different levels of prominence in the culture. So Instagram is still huge, but I would say it's not a driver of culture in the way that it once was. That role is now TikTok. How do you see that waxing and waning? Why do you think that change happened? Is it just young people use TikTok and that's it, or is something else going on? And in general, a lot of this guy's work is analyzing like almost like the aesthetics of cultural spaces and how they influence the rest of our lives. He says people get bored. I think partly it's just as fashion trends change, technological trends change, and I think we discount that too often. When we use the same platform for 5 or 6 years, we tend to start getting itchy and want something else. Um, skipping ahead to it's also just more and more. of culture has moved on to the internet. I think digital platforms have absorbed different areas of culture. It used to be more offline, whether it's a television equivalent like TikTok or podcast. It used to be radio over the past decade. More things have gone online. I think that's been a major shift. I think it's interesting too to think about how so much of culture going online then has affected the way this is a little bit hippy dippy ish, but how we like think about big issues because we're so used to, hot takey podcast and videos. I don't know. I have a thought thing I'm not gonna go down the rabbit hole of. Um, Checking in with chat. I haven't looked in a little bit. My first comment I see is Ashland said Starship Troopers. Hell of a movie. Um, I haven't watched that one in forever. Are you a Starship Troopers guy, Henry?
I like it. I think if it's kind of the weakest of that satire trilogy Verhoeven has going with like RoboCop, Total Recall, Starship Troopers, but I do like it.
Yeah. I do realize as I look at this interview, it's really long with a lot of detail and subtlety. I just think people should like watch it or listen to it
Yeah, it's a
actually.
bit dense for us to do like 3 minutes on.
Yeah, I'm realizing that now. So sorry about that, friends.
Yeah,
Maybe we can find something else. But yeah, well, we'll just wrap by chatting for a bit.
yeah, talking about the spaces and presentation in place of media in people's lives. Chat earlier was talking about the ways they were like listening. They were listening with music with their friends, and I was thinking of the way like, yeah, albums used to be a shared thing, but I don't know if it's just because I've gotten older or the means of distribution have changed. But like, we don't even like stream things collectively. I don't really like stream music collectively with people anymore.
I mean, I imagine like so. Shout out to the Bay Hive and the Swifties. I bet, and I'm just making shit up now,
Right.
but I wouldn't be surprised if like fans of artists like Beyonce and Taylor Swift are some of the only audiences who are like getting together to celebrate new albums.
Yeah, she did just have her concert movie tour, which did all kinds of money.
Yeah. Um, I think things like that are cool. Because even with music, like if it's not in headphones, it's like if we're in our cars and we're alone. Sean Harriman brings up that concerts get web streams. This is another thing. A lot more
Yeah, that
artists these
Talking
days are live
Heads
streaming.
concert movie was making the rounds last year, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's still in some theaters. I went and saw that at with a buddy at the Alamo Drafthouse near us, and normally the Alamo Drafthouse has their thing before the movies. That's basically like the movie's about to start, so shut the fuck up, which I kind of love. Um, and before the Talking Heads thing, it was like the movie's about to start. Do whatever, dance, yell, have fun, and it was so awkward for the first 20 minutes. Everyone's looking at each other like, "Is this a trick? Are we gonna get kicked out?" But then people were kind of like cheering and singing along at parts, and it was very fun. But to go back to Sean's thing, I think like if you have a musician you like, that could be a fun thing to do. Find find a streaming show or watch a show on YouTube. That was a big thing during deep lockdown. Dead and Company, the current iteration of the Grateful Dead, they did a thing on their YouTube channel where I think it was Saturday, they streamed a live show. And me and a bunch of my buddies, I don't have that many friends, guys. Me and two friends, Philip and Bear, we'd get on like a Zoom or a Google Hangout and like watch that show together and, shoot the shit and talk about it. It's fun. Doing things communally is fun. I think that's why, honestly, I know that uh, I might get criticized sometimes for being too um, chat focused on the stream, but I think it's more fun that way. It's nice to hang out with Henry, but it's nice to know that we're also hanging out with all of you. But let's do this. What are things then? We're talking about media. What are some things that people think would be cool to watch or listen to together? What's a movie? What's an album? All you need is two friends, right, Raphael? That people like. Um, I mean, I do think we talked about this before. Uh, I think Big Lebowski is a great movie to watch with friends, and I think
Very
Big
shareable.
Lebowski's yeah. And I've had a hard time in certain cases. I'm going to use this term in a self-aware, at least vaguely ironic way. You know, oh, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead and do your thing, and then yeah, I have a movie I'd like to bring up.
All right, cool. Some normies can get turned off by some of the Coen Brothers stuff, but Lebowski does not. Wes Walcott's Random X-Men 97. I've only watched the first one. I need to keep watching it. Oh, I do know that next week, actually in Austin, Texas, where someone happens to live, I know that
What?
yeah, during the eclipse on Monday or whatever, I know that the band Vampire Weekend is playing an afternoon show in Austin during an eclipse, and that they're live streaming it for free. So if
Cool.
anyone likes the band Vampire Weekend and wants to watch them play live from Austin during an eclipse, that will be streaming. This stream is not sponsored by the band Vampire Weekend, but I'm just letting people know there's some good recommendations here. What's a piece of media, music,
Yeah.
or
So,
anything that you recommend?
the criticism article we were reading reminded me that the films of Lizzie Borden are up on the
Oh
Criterion
yeah,
channel right now. Born in Flames is a movie I highly recommend people check out. It's a fake documentary shot in kind of a fly on the wall style that asks, what if we had a socialist revolution in 1980, about 1980ish, and instead of going for Reagan, we just like reformed the welfare state. And just the way it explores how there's still persistent problems in American culture that economics can't solve. And some of the wild swings it takes with what its fake anti-capitalist movement does. It's a great movie to watch because it was made in 1980s and it was making a bunch of wild political predictions and swings that like time has like made more interesting. So like it's not a nostalgia watch if you're taking the context of today in with it.
Borden did Working Girls, right?
Yes.
Oh, that movie's so
Working
sick.
Girls is up on Criterion Channel right now as well. I believe there's a few different Borden flicks, but yeah, Born in Flames is the one that's just like so weird and experimental, and like I think it's worth showing to like younger folks.
That's awesome. Matthew Rotary is finally getting to For All Mankind. I love For All Mankind. I won't say who. You can guess. But one of my friends is on that show. She's one of the main people. Very fun. Oh, Rosatal or Rosatl brought up Jackass. Jackass is a great community watch. I also, when I was in like high school and college, that's the sort of stuff we would get. We would watch like Jackass and get like a dorm room full of people and watch episodes of Jackass or the movie, and we would like laugh together or be like, "Oh my god!" Right. It was really fun. I think that's like when I think about that, I think about it in a communal sense, and that's why when Jackass 4 came out, I knew I had to go to the theater the first weekend because I needed to be around like lots of people
That
um,
I did
reacting to it.
recently sit down and watch the newest episode of Smiling Friends, which debuted on April Fool's Day with people,
Hmm.
and that was a great shared viewing experience. If you haven't seen Smiling Friends, it's one of the funniest cartoons out there right
Oh, I've
now.
read about this. All right, nice. Well, cool, guys. Well, yeah, let's wrap it up because honestly, I'm really tired today, and we got to film a video after this. So thank you so much for hanging out, everyone. Um, keep sharing stuff in the chat. So keep the chat up for a little bit. If you're watching this after the fact, we appreciate it. We appreciate you a lot for doing that. As always, we have a link to our Patreon in the description. Consider checking it out if you haven't already. If you have the money, it means a lot to us and helps us. And I really do think you get some good content there. And check out the video Friday, 10 a.m. Friday, video coming out on work. I think you guys will really like it. I want it to do well. And if you're on the Patreon, you'll get that video tomorrow.
I have to get
Um,
working on that work video.
yeah. And cute anecdote for anyone still watching. I was watching the cut very early this morning, and I kind of had to be with my daughter when it happened. And when my face popped up on the screen, she did this really funny thing where she looked at the computer and she looked at me. Um, because I think it was the first time she's seen me externalized on a video screen. And she was kind of like, what the fuck? That's you, but you're in the fucking, what the fuck? It was really fun. I hope I broke her brain with that. Thank you so much for hanging out. Really love and appreciate you guys. I would name you all, but I'd get too emotional. Thanks as always to producer Henry. And we will see you all on Monday. On Monday, I think we're going to see it. So see you then. Have a great week. Bye.
Enjoy your weekend, y'all. Bye.